right, let's get off that terrifying spider subject and talk about some firearm statistics here. Whenever there's a mass shooting, the nation grapples with the necessity to protect the right to keep and bear arms. Most of the time, only one side of the story is obviously told. But the tragic side is that the gun owner side is not told. Our next guest looks into the deliberate attempt to downplay the underreporting defensive uses of a firearm in an attempt to undermine the importance of the Second Amendment.
Yes, joining us now is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, John Lott, Jr. John, welcome to Wake Up America Weekend. You wrote that FBI undercounts defensive uses of a firearm by an order of 3. But what's interesting, some stats here, is in Philadelphia, 67% we saw an increase in justified gun use from 2020 to 2021. They jumped up from 12 to 20. Last I checked, there was already 8 justified fatal gun uses in Philly for 2022. So how are you coming to this conclusion, and why is the FBI acting as if there's not a crime surge, that this isn't a problem, and that the public doesn't need to defend themselves?
Well, it's kind of hard to get into people's minds to know why they do the things they do. People don't need to take my word for it. We've listed out between 2014 and 2021, 41 cases where, according to police, the presence of a legally armed civilian stop would have been a mass public shooting. The FBI, over that period of time, lists out only 11 cases. And they include a much broader definition there of cases where just what they call an active shooting incident, which may be a gun fired in public and nobody shot. So I would argue that, they're missing a lot more cases than the ones we find. And there are 2 types of errors mainly that they're making. One is they just don't include cases that should be included. And secondly, there's a number of cases where they misidentify them. They claim that the person was a security guard that stopped it, so they're not counting that as a civilian, when in fact, you take something like the church shooting near Fort Worth in 2019, where parishioners there stopped the attack. None of them were armed security guards that were there. They were civilians. They had, according to people there at the church, something between about 18 and 20 people carrying permanent concealed handguns at the time of the attack.
Right. Yeah, but we know, too, that, most of these shootings happen in gun-free zones, like 95% of them. So the narrative always behind the gun control freaks are that we have to protect our kids. We have to protect people. We have to protect. But we have seen statistically that the presence of firearms protects people the best, because even when nobody's carrying a firearm, the first thing they do in an emergency is call somebody with a firearm. Why is that hard to stomach?
Look, one just needs to read the diaries or manifestos of these murderers to know why they picked the targets that they did. Take the Buffalo murder. He explicitly, grocery store attacker there, he explicitly talks about going to a gun-free zone. He wanted to go to a place where he knew none of the victims there would have permanent concealed handguns, because it would make it easier for him to go and kill lots of people. They want to get media attention, and they know the more people they kill, the more media attention that they're going to get. And I can give you dozens of cases. But look, the thing that's most disturbing here is I was working in the Department of Justice up until January last year, and I provided cases for the FBI. And they basically, even when I got people to admit that they were missing cases, they have refused to go back and actually fix the list that they had.
That's crazy to me.
Well, also, let's just go back in time a little bit. Even in the past couple of months, there's been 2 pretty widely reported on instances. That mall shooting in Indiana.
Mall America.
Right.
No guns allowed.
And also in New York, where gun laws are some of the strictest in the country, there was a potential mass shooting at a Queens 4th of July celebration. And a Good Samaritan with a gun shot a person who was about to fire into a crowd. And he was widely regarded by Mayor Eric Adams as a hero. So why are suddenly, these people are heroes, but when it comes down to policy, these lawmakers aren't willing to make it easier for more heroes to be able to carry around their guns?
Look, police are extremely important. Anybody who's read my research knows that I think police are probably the #1 factor in reducing crime. The thing is, for stopping these mass public shootings, police have an incredibly difficult job. If you have one police officer there, who do they think the attacker goes after first? If he's the only person that has a gun in an area and the killer kills him, he has free reign to go after other people. The advantage of concealed carry is that you take away that tactical advantage that the killer has. He doesn't know who it is he has to take out first. There's a reason why in their diaries and manifestos, time after time after time, these mass public shooters go and explicitly talk about avoiding places where people have permanently concealed handguns. And there's simply not enough police anyway in the country to go and protect all the possible targets that are out there.
Right. Yeah, the Sun Tzu art of war. You never want to let your enemy know what your advantage is. John Lott, we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, straight ahead on Wake Up America Weekend, confidence. How do we change our mindset to be calmer and more confident version of ourselves? Well, our next guest wrote a book about it, and she's going to tell us after the break.